Hi, everybody. Welcome to the session. Glad, pumped, happy to see so many of you here. So as I said, the goal of the session will be to actually work our way on our own through an ideation format, right? The goal is also to not just get caught up in like perfection in terms of finding the perfect ideas due to the pure size of this group, right? So we have to be a bit pragmatic and trying to make it work. It's kind of an experiment for me as well with this group size. So this will be interesting. But instead, the goal is to give you a sense of how a remote workshop can work like, can look like, can feel like, what kind of pitfalls to avoid, and what kind of maybe even good things to look forward to and focus on when you return back to work with the remote team. So in order to do that, and I said I won't do any slides in here, and I keep my promise, but what I want to share with you quickly is, I wanted to share my screen, but I can't. That's interesting.
Does the button not work?
Yeah, the button doesn't work.
Oh.
Okay, then we maybe have to improvise. Okay, so slide change of plans. So as I said, we will work together on this one, and here's what we're going to do. We're going to use Miro, which is a virtual whiteboard tool. Essentially, some of you might be familiar with it, others won't. That's not an issue. We're going to use Miro to collaborate on this this short ideation session. So what I will do in a second is I will share a link to a Miro board with all of you in here in the chat. And you will enter the board as guest editors, meaning you can create things, you can move around, all this stuff. What I want you to ask is to keep your hands away from the mouse and the computer just for a second, so I can walk you through what we're going to do before you go crazy and create all those post-it notes, okay? Can everybody give me a quick thumbs up that you managed to keep your hands away from the keyboard and the mouse? Cool. So here we go. This is the Miro link. Please join me in there, and also let us know in the chat. Let us know in the chat if you have any issues joining the Miro board. But I see people arriving, so I assume in general it seems to be working. Okay, well, that's nice. Cool. So here's what we're going to do again. Hands away from the mouse and the keyboard. What I can do in Miro is I can make you see what I'm seeing. And I want to use this quick exercise, this feature to walk you through the normal process of the board. So I will click a button now, which will send all of you basically to me. So you should now see all the viewport I'm seeing. You can basically get rid of me every time just by scrolling and moving away from the viewport, but please don't. And wow, we have 36 people in the workshop in the Miro.
There's a lot of people that can view, but not everybody can share the video.
Sorry?
Yeah. There's more people that can view the session, but not everybody can share the video.
That will, okay.
Yeah.
So I hope the other people just get tired and start collaborating. Okay, so let me walk you through what we're going to do in this session. Again, you should see my viewport. So I will skip the introduction part, you know that. Obviously, you're here for the cookies. There they are. That's the best I can do. So I kept my promise. As I said, the goal is to give you some helpful advice and specific tactics you can use for you. Huh? Okay. Who was that? That's interesting. Okay, whoever is currently talking to his Google Assistant, please mute yourself. It's kind of distracting.
Can we all mute?
Okay. Again, let's skip ahead. We're going to work through some specific tactics. So let's zoom out for a second, give you an idea of what we're going to do in the grand scheme of things here on Miro. So I've prepared a couple of boards and a couple of steps to work through those steps of the ideation. Here's a quick Miro 101 for those of you who haven't worked with Miro yet. It should recognize whether you're on the computer, on the laptop with a mouse or a keyboard, which makes it easier to navigate the Miro space. If it doesn't, you can change that every time using the settings. The main action, though, you should be aware of is to add a post-it note, which is one of the main things we're going to do, meaning you should, in theory, be able to double-click anywhere to create a post-it note. If it doesn't work, just use the left-hand sidebar and the fourth icon from the top, where it's a small post-it note. If you click on that and click anywhere in the Miro board, you're able to create a post-it note, which is one of the main actions you have to perform later on during this exercise, during the workshop. Some of you are already doing that. Trying to bring you back to me now. Okay, so let's move on. That's the Miro basics. Again, this is in the Miro board. You can look at that every time you feel stuck. So what's the context for this ideation exercise, this ideation workshop we're going to do today? I see that as a part of the general process of running product discovery, meaning understanding the problem space, trying to validate whether you're actually solving a problem worth solving, and as a product team having enough confidence to move forward, focusing on an idea. Now, if you look at from a high-level perspective of some potential phases of product discovery, you can typically differentiate that between alignment, research, ideation, creation, validation, or refinement. But today's phase will be focused on research and ideation, right? So naturally, we're going to operate at the intersection of research and ideation for today, which is the main part of this workshop. So one of the things which is incredibly important, not just for remote ideation, but also for on-site ideation, is to essentially set the stage. Meaning, ideally, you are able to run ideation sessions with more people than just those who are on your product team. Meaning, you probably have some cross-functional collaborators, maybe from marketing and sales in the workshop, and you have to bring everybody up to speed. And because you can't expect everybody to come up with brilliant ideas right away. So which is why it's important to recap basically what you have learned throughout the phase of product discovery or other research activities along the way. So a great visual way, which has worked well for me in the past, is a tool called impact mapping, where I linked also a small blog post on the Miro blog where I outlined the tool, which essentially helps you to outline specific insights you have already gathered in terms of a specific user problem or business problem, and basically bring people up to speed very, very quickly in terms of what you're actually trying to solve, right? Because ideally, exactly in this session, on an ideation session, you're trying to solve the problems. You think you've understood the problem space, and you now want to become more practical about actual solutions, hopefully worth pursuing. Now, let's move on for a sec, and then we're getting closer to all of you getting very active. So in order to simulate this ideation, I brought with me some fictional input. So the situation we are in here right now is that we work for a company called Hilti. So quick show of hands, who knows Hilti? Okay. So let me bring you up to speed. I picked a more unpopular example by intent. So things that what Hilti does is they build heavy machinery for construction sites, right? So this heavy stuff you bring to the construction site to put holes into walls and all that fancy stuff. So they are like a European leader, and they do that for a long time. So they're one of Europe's biggest suppliers for heavy machinery. We all are this massive digital product team at Hilti, naturally. And in this situation, we are basically tasked with summarizing the key problems our customers are facing and coming up with a set of solutions which might be worth pursuing in order to solve their core problems. Right? That's the situation. So I prepared some like dummy data in terms of how Hilti's customers might be thinking and feeling. So some of the top support request topics are that a new machinery breakdown has happened, that people want to check the status of their machinery breakdown maintenance. They might want to order new machinery, or they want to know how to use machinery by itself and want support for that. Next to that, I summarized a quick empathy map of how, based on survey and qualitative insights, Hilti customers are feeling, thinking, what they're saying, what they're doing about Hilti, right? I won't go through that in too much detail right now. This is what you will have some time for in a second. So those two main pieces of information are about setting the stage for us in this ideation phase, giving us an idea of what we have learned so far about Hilti's customers. Now, here's the first part of what we're going to do to kick off this ideation phase. We won't jump straight into the solution space and thinking of ideas. Instead, I want you to slowly get going with this format we're going to use here to basically recap of what you have learned about the Hilti customer. So let's zoom out for a second, give you an idea of how the layout looks like. So I prepared in the center a small sailboat retrospective format. Some of you are probably familiar with that. The things which work well for a customer or for us as a team go above the waterline, which represent the wins. The things which don't work that well go below the waterline, and they are our anchors or our pains. Now, here's what I want you to do for the next 10 minutes. You get a bit of extra time to get into the zone. I want you to look at the research material I just shared with you about the Hilti customers. I then want you to pick an individual idea parking lot. So there are plenty of idea parking lots prepared around this the sailboat. In total, I think we have 24, which should just be enough for everybody's screen, at least I can see. So pick one of the individual idea parking lots, which is your unique space, put your name there in the headline, and start summarizing the pains, summarizing the key pains, the core anchors you getting from this research material on the Hilti customer. Collect those in your individual idea parking lot. This is a technique I like to use to avoid group thinking, right? So we're not just shouting at each other all the time, but you have your own time and space to come up with your own thoughts before meeting with the whole group. So pick your place, come up with collect those anchors you get from the user research insights, and then we meet back and facilitate bringing all your insights together, finding clusters and voting on the most important problems worth solving. Again, just focus on the pains for now and collect those pains in your individual idea parking lot, and then we will come back together and collect them in the main space below. Quick show of hands, everybody good? Any issues? Anything unclear? Any questions? All right, folks. Then I'm going to put an 8-minute timer. You should see that at the bottom of the Miro page. So take some time, get familiar with the research content, and start collecting those pains in your individual idea space.
If any questions come up,
Yeah, or just put them in the chat as well. Okay, someone did a big copy and paste fuck up in here right now. Shit.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will spend my time cleaning up. Why is this not?
Okay.
I had locked everything, so it's really, really concerning why it hasn't worked. Okay.
I think someone's highlighting it. I'm not sure. If anyone can hear that, maybe control that.
I think I was able to remove the big duplicate, right? I think still the core issue.
Looks like it, yeah.
Why?
Yeah,
it's locked. How is it possible to duplicate? Learning something new every day. Or can you duplicate the whole thing, which would be insane?
I was listening to the fireside chat with Miro CEO yesterday. He said they have some bugs to fix because there's a lot of usage these days.
I think it's possible if you click on it and because everything is locked as one thing and you duplicate it, it duplicates the whole thing. Please don't duplicate anything. Public announcement, please don't. It's like.
Just as an overall time check, Tim. So we got around like 5:15 p.m.
Thanks.
Just FYI. 5:15
Yeah.
p.m. Yeah, because of the schedule shift a little bit. But I think we're all good.
Yeah, sorry, one question from Adelina. So the pains, it's basically you have to interpret the pains. If you look at the Hilti user insights board, where I summarized some support topics and some insights from the empathy map for the Hilti customer, it's basically your job translating those insights into what you presume are the actual pains of the users, right? So not making that easy to list out the pains for you.
And also, like, we will prioritize it later. So, like, at this stage, quantity is more important than quality. So, like, list up whatever you want, and then we can later on discuss what we think is most relevant. I find Mirror such a fun tool. It's you get lost in all
I'm
the
super
like
amazed by the
details,
performance,
things
to
that
be
you can
honest. It's
create.
the first time I'm seeing 50 people on the same board perform, which is like seriously impressive.
Yeah. Yeah.
So folks, 4 more minutes. Again, as David said, quantity beats quality at this point in time. Make sure to collect the pains you think are worth solving. But again, also keep in mind, we're not trying to save Hilti for real. Focus on the fun part of collecting those things. I won't sell this ideation board to Hilti afterwards. Yeah, because I see some of you writing text, so please make sure you use a post-it note for every pane you're documenting. This way, we can actually shift individual post-it notes in the core area.
Yeah. Is everybody clear on how to get the post-it notes? Yeah, cool. Two more minutes, guys. One and a half minutes, maybe less. Last minute. Seconds left. Last 1 or 2 ideas.
Okay, folks. Satisfying sound. Cool. So here's the next part. We're going to collect those panes you have gathered in the below the waterline section, right, where the panes are actually going. And we will try to form some clusters, right, try to find similarities, try to find clusters where we can group some panes together, and then we will vote on those pane clusters, so to say, in order to move forward, okay? So please bring your, who wants to start bringing your post-it notes down to the panes section? And so what we're going to do is, well, So who wants to start? Yeah. Okay, then let's do it like this. Then so bring down your panes in the panes section, obviously. And of course, if you see similarities, if you see clusters, you can do that already, right? So if you see a post-it note which is similar to one, place it next to it, and then we try to find headlines for these clusters.
I might move some of your clusters, some of your post-it notes to group them together. So don't be annoyed if they move space a bit.
Okay, so we obviously have, I think we have already a first cluster, which is called repair time. I'm just going to name that. Make sure to spread out if possible. So let me move the water line. Well, guess what? Let's just dedicate everything to the pane so we have more place. Spread your post-it notes out. Make sure priorities. So I have created a repair time to long cluster at the top right. So if you feel your post-it note matches this cluster, move it over here. What else do we see already? We have if anybody sees any clusters, feel free to shout them out.
So bottom right, training.
Right, training for the employees, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Time lost on staff training, training colleagues.
Let's make sure for the employees is meant the construction workers, the people operating those machines.
Another one is also consistency.
Which one? Sorry, I didn't get that, David.
Effectively of the replacement, the repair.
Yeah.
Consistency and quality of repairs seems like one. Basically.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah. We can maybe call it quality of replacement.
Just stack them in there, right? It's totally fine if we stack them in the maintenance takes too long, report time. Okay, let's try to slow support service. Let's try to clean it up a bit more. Anxiety around downtime, around forecasted downtime. I think we also have cost, right? Cost of repair.
There's also costs, I think. Cost. Yeah.
So we have 4 clusters so far. We have repair time is too long, employee training of construction site workers. We have consistency and quality of repairs. We have cost of repair. We have trust, right? Thanks, that's a good one. Quality of support, that's a good one as well. Let me add that. Sorry?
I think that captures the majority.
Yeah, the majority, right? Does anybody see
any
other major clusters? Repair time too long, quality of support, employee training, consistency, quality of repairs, cost of repair, and trust. So 6 problem clusters so far.
That's quite good.
Okay, so let's continue in order to tell you, move ahead. So here's what we're going to do. We already know which are, as we only have 6 problem clusters, we already know the top 6 ones, but of course we only want to focus on the most important problem cluster right now, which means we're going to do a round of voting. And we're going to do this voting on those problem clusters, right? Because we just have way too many ideas in order to vote on these, because there our votes will get spread out and lost all the time. meaning I will allow you to vote on those clusters. So I will kickstart the voting session. Everybody, problem clusters. We're going to take 2 minutes for voting, so it should be a quick one. We're going to do 5 votes per person. And I will only allow for voting on the shapes. So click on the rectangle which forms the problem cluster. Okay, so don't click on the post-it notes. You should be able to click on those rectangles illustrating the problem clusters. Okay, so 2 minutes voting time, 5 votes per person on those problem clusters. Start now. So when you hover over those rectangles, you should see a small 1 indicating that when you click now, it will add a vote to this cluster. Anybody having issues voting, or does it work well for everybody?
Tim, I'm not seeing it. Sorry.
Sorry?
I'm not seeing the voting either.
So when you hover over the rectangle, there should be on the top right of this rectangle, you should be able to cast a vote. Ah, yeah, sorry. Sorry, I was thinking I.
Oh yeah, I see. The bottom right. Okay.
There was a
Sorry for that, guys.
Otherwise, at the bottom, the timer, there's also like it looks like a thumbs up, like a light button. If you click on that, then you can click the button vote now on the left hand side.
And you can click multiple times on a rectangle to cast multiple votes on the same problem cluster.
So now you should see.
And when you voted, remember to click done when you have cast all your votes. And in 30 seconds, I will end the voting for everybody.
Ten seconds left, guys.
All right. We're done. See results. So you should be able to see the results on the top, on this left side-hand bar as well. For me, it's still processing all those votes, so I can't see them yet. But there we go. So we have the repair time is too long as the top voted topic. So I'm going to put that as a post-it note here. It's the first one. Second one is around employee training. And let's only focus on the third one. The third one is about risk to earnings, is about quality. What is that? It's the cost of repair, right? It's the third one, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it's support with 23 votes.
Sorry?
Unless I'm wrong. I think so, yeah. It says with 23 votes, support.
Okay, so those are the top 3 ones. Here's what we're going to do. Obviously, those are just like pure problems, right? In order to encourage actual ideation, we still want to give them a slight twist. So again, follow me around for a sec. So now we have those problems, right? We have the repair time too long, employee training, cost of repair. We're now gonna rephrase those and turn the problem into an actual challenge. And of course, we will do that by turning that into a how might we statement, right? Some of you are probably familiar with that. It's just rephrasing a problem into an actual challenge where a team can much better connect with that it's something worth solving. So the problem was that the repair time is too long. And the challenge will be how might we shorten the repair time for our customers? That's the challenge we want to take on, right? How might we shorten the repair time for our customers? And it's important to do this in between steps. So whenever you present problems from actual user research in the ideation session, I can really recommend rephrasing it to an how might we statement, which makes it just more easy for people to relate to the challenge and have a much better perspective on coming up with actual ideas and not getting stuck in the actual problem, right? So now it's time to actually ideate. Again, we're going to be very straightforward here and won't use any fancy ideation format. Just want to point out that you can, of course, combine this way of doing remote ideation with any kind of ideation technique. I personally love things like brainwriting or mashup techniques. I put some links there for you to read later. You can, of course, also use like some of those standard things like doing a crazy 8 exercise, depending on the size and the maturity of the group of people. But again, in our scenario, we will keep it very straightforward and very easy. So it's now time for another round of ideation. So I'm going to make sure that I have the How Might We Challenge present for everybody. So we're sure that we all align on the same goal, is that we want to shorten the repair time for our customers. And again, it's the same drill. Pick an individual parking lot, which are spread out around this ideation space. We're going to now give you 3 minutes now to come up with ideas to solve this challenge right now for the Hilti customers. Based on what you know, again, it's not about perfect content. It's about getting a sense for the process. 3 minutes on the clock, produce a lot of ideas, and then we repeat by bringing all the ideas together, defining clusters, and voting. Any questions? Anything unclear? Anybody struggling? Other than that, assume we're good. So 3 minutes on the clock and get going with those ideas.
If you guys can do this as well on post-it notes, sorry to call someone out, but I don't know who it is, but I can see a yellow box. Just grab a post-it note or on the left hand side. That's much easier to combine it. Awesome. Yeah, I've just created a post-it note for that person. Cool. So yeah, you can go crazy on them. Any ideas that you can think of. Don't think of them as being stupid, because a lot of stuff is possible in software. So there's a lot of things that potentially can be built. We can talk about feasibility another time, but this is really the point where as many ideas are created, and then the team typically then decides, well, what are the things we want to prioritize, and then for whichever reason. .5 minutes left, guys. Try and put yourself in the shoes of the customer. What are they gonna want? What will make them happy?
Yes.
1 more minute.
So some of you are already putting post-it notes in the center ideation slot. Please try to create those post-it notes in your individual idea space, so it's easier for us to come back and group and cluster in there. Thanks. Okay, last 10 seconds. All right. So let's do a quick idea walkthrough. So originally I thought about everybody presenting their own ideas, but I feel we will go way over time right now. So instead, let's just continue to do it as we did for the paints. So bring your ideas to the main space. I already prepared some clusters there. Just put your whoever is going started, just put your ideas in one of these clusters if you feel they're sort of similar, and we then try to find And if you have one of these big post-it notes, please make sure to resize them so it's easier to rearrange them. Just click on them, and then you should be able to resize them. Thanks. So again, so let's see what kind of clusters are already emerging right now. So we have machine diagnostics, like predictive maintenance, right? We have standardized training. I know it's more about, was it training options, standardized training, train customers. Interesting that we have training as a solution to shorten the repair time. Okay. Again, we're not here for the perfect solutions. I will do some wrap-up comments when we're done voting to give you an idea of how this could look like. Okay. Sorry?
There's quite a lot of training.
Yeah.
No, there's quite a lot of comments.
Okay, what's there? We have early signs of breakdown, option to choose repair time slot, identify how to process repair queries faster, online booking. How would you call? I think it's more about this online booking, self-service sort of. Self-service support, repair booking. This. We have one here. Sorry? Go ahead.
Sorry. No, I was saying that we've got this kind of theme around increasing capacity of repair team, overnight repair. So basically just, I guess, repair.
You mean the one on the left, the cluster one?
Repair capacity.
Okay. Yeah.
There's actually no cluster around it right now. It's
this one, right? Let's put it here. How would you call it? Sorry.
Exactly. Maybe repair capacity.
Always want to optimize things. Okay, I think we have the majority sort of brought together, right? I think the majority already is in the cluster. Make sure just to double check. We have 5 main clusters, machine diagnostics, predictive maintenance. We have cluster 1, sorry, which doesn't have a name yet. Automate repair process. This automate repair process. We have the repair capacity optimization, standardized training, and self-service support. Cool. Right. So here we go. Again, we will vote again. As you can see, in our scenario, we have way too many post-it notes to vote on individual post-it notes, right? So again, we're going to repeat the drill now that we all know how it works. So we create a new voting session. We vote on solutions this time. Again, I can only encourage you to vote on the rectangles. I haven't started the voting yet. Don't get nervous. Again, 5 votes per person, 2 minutes time voting on solutions. You should see on the left-hand side, vote now to enter the voting process and cast your 5 votes on one of those solution clusters, okay?
Your question, Adelino, maybe it's because of the
yeah.
I don't know, maybe there's just a lot of people, I guess, on Mirror. For me, it's last as well, so don't worry. And with Mike, I don't know, potentially, maybe.
Yeah, that's actually, I can share something afterwards, which should be helpful. It's probably the easiest way to get that.
For Corey's comment, I agree. I think usually you would have this for a team of
Yeah.
say 10 people max, or maybe even less. 50 is quite a lot. So a lot of things are flying around.
Yeah.
It's not quite the normal way of how to use Miro, but yeah, I used it as well. Tim loves it, I think. And,
Okay,
I think it's
50 seconds left. Cast your last votes. $20 seconds left. Corey, yeah, I can certainly feel that. I have also a MacBook Pro here running at like maximum capacity probably. Again, the amount of traffic you're seeing right now in parallel with video live streaming on Chrome, this is probably, I'm wondering how the bot was set up in advance to make items non-editable. Well, this is mainly, it's just like the facilitator's responsibility. So you just have to lock all the elements to avoid people dragging it around. Okay, voting is done, but again, a couple more notes on that when we wrap up. So again, I've never seen the votes processing so long. So we have a winner. The winner is machine diagnostics, predictive maintenance. Everybody loves this IoT machine learning stuff, right? Second one is automate repair processes. Third one is self-service support repair booking. Okay. So let me give you a quick outlook of how this would continue. So you have a bit more time at the end to wrap things up. Again, please follow me around for a sec. I will gather all of you to me. Here's what we normally would do. Again, so we know that we just did the voting. I also recommend normally that teams take some time to just list those solution clusters vertically, just have some clarity. What are the top solutions we have just voted on? Have some follow-up discussions to clean everything up. Then, of course, you still have to facilitate somehow how you continue working with these solutions, right? So especially in the product discovery process, you can't just go away and start on the most important one. You shouldn't just pursue the highest voted one. This is, of course, a good way to do some quick advancements. Oh no, please don't move it around, however that is possible. Instead, I personally love creating like something like more like a visual understanding, shared visual understanding of how things can look like. So I'm not the biggest fan of like pure effort impact. I think our product work is way more nuanced than that. So I believe looking at two aspects. On the one hand, what is our effort to launch an experiment around this solution and this idea in order to validate whether it's worth solving. And the second axis is what is our confidence that this idea can actually change the desired customer behavior, right? And keep in mind, the desired customer behavior was this how might we statement we had, meaning we wanted to shorten the report time. This is the change in behavior we wanted to create from an internal perspective, right? So this is how I would recommend to end such a session, to have a visual understanding of where every idea goes. You might have some ideas which are simply worth pursuing and implementing right away, but you might have others which really sound where you have a high confidence that you can achieve your goal, but where you need to do some more digging in order to set up an experiment and structure them and set them up for actual product delivery, right? So do things like that. And again, on the right-hand side, a tool which has been very helpful for me, again, some additional reading on that, is impact mapping, where you can now really have a place to put those solutions, like how does this solution relate to a change in behavior, to an outcome you want to create, and therefore have it all nicely laid out and make decisions together as a team on how to continue and which solutions actually to pursue. So I highly recommend this combination of basically, specifically in remote situations, to use any kind of visualization tool to make it clear on what you have created and what you have agreed on. Normal scoring and dot voting can just be a bit misleading here. So try to document something in a very, very visual way. Okay, so last 5 minutes, I wanted to like reduce the brain overload and just share some thoughts. So I recommend you leave the Miro board or let's just stick to the video solution. So as you know, as you probably have noticed, we cut some corners. We definitely cut some corners in this session. But again, it wasn't about the perfect content, the perfect ideas. It was mainly about giving you a sense for how a process like this can look like. It was messy. It was expected to be messy. This is not how it would probably look like when you do it with your product team. What I normally recommend, what David has also mentioned, I think like a sweet spot for a remote situation, when you only have one facilitator, I think like 6 to 8 people might be the maximum worth handling if you exclude yourself from the actual content work. Everything going beyond that, I highly recommend involving a second facilitator. The facilitator role is like increased by, I don't know, the importance of this role is increased by like 300%, I assume. And remote situations, like setting all this stuff up, make sure everything is logged, making sure to facilitate the voting, all that stuff. This is just something you can't do very well in parallel while collaborating. But it's worth investing because this is what makes remote ideation effective, having everything laid out and lined up of what people have to do, what they want to do. Probably forgot some stuff. Again, I also wanted to do this a bit different, but it turned out it wasn't possible, which is also fine, coping with the reality. In terms of asking for the template, so the easiest way of doing that is, so Miro, they are, I don't know when exactly, but they are about to launch something called the Miroverse, which is their main template gallery. In this Miroverse, you will find this ideation template from me and the impact mapping template I showed you as well. So I contributed to those Miroverse. I don't know exactly when it will be launching, but I can find that out. So again, this might be the easiest way, the cleanest way to access this template and reuse it for your own ways of working. Again, lots of additional templates in there, integrations in there to facilitate great workshops and ideation sessions. Again, this was more like the tip of the iceberg. Like, this is how it can look like in a very messy way. The actual reality should be much more organized and cleaned up. But what I can recommend when you do an ideation session is to focus only on one how might we statement per ideation session. Everything else gets people super confused. You probably want to chop it up in 60 or 90-minute blocks. Focus on one how might we, so you have enough space to discuss solutions and create clarity to move forward. Don't just try to squeeze everything into one. Rather do multiple sessions over a couple of days, maybe even. Cool. That's all I had to say.
The only thing I'd mention, while echoing and giving you a big amen to everything that you just said, is basically collaboration is still happening even though if it's remote, right? So as Tim said, and it's obviously difficult with 50 people. Any kind of statement, typically, when you have them, for example, in your space and you move the post-it notes to a bucket or somewhere before it gets clustered, typically, because this can be so put out of context, that person would, like, as in real life, would just share what they actually meant by it. And then you would have a much better idea of like what the idea actually meant. So the discussion shouldn't go away. And a good way to do this, to not have like complete overload and sort of this new buzzword Zoom fatigue, is basically sure that you have the breaks in between and people actually can talk about it. But obviously it is exhausting while using Miro and Zoom and your computer might be lagging. So give people time, have a facilitator. In the company I work for, we actually have 3 of them, which has been quite useful to facilitate those sessions. And yeah, Miro has a lot of great templates for design sprints, for ideation sessions, things that you can do in Jira, you can also do in Miro, etc. So there's lots you can basically use your creativity.
Basically, plus warning, everything David just said. I think it's super important that this sharing the idea process is something you should take your time. Give every individual the space, or not just the space to write down their ideas, but also to present and share their ideas, and do this in a like facilitated and calm manner, and don't just rush through all the ideas. Okay. Any other questions? Could you switch the arrows off? I'm not sure. Question from Darren. Maybe. I'm not sure. Miro just introduced this gathering feature pretty much 2 days ago, so it's still in the refinement phase, I guess.
Yeah.
Cool. That being said, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I've seen it before without. No, I was just saying, I've seen it without it.
Yeah, that's true.
I think there might be.
Cool, folks. So we're probably getting kicked out in a couple of seconds. So thanks so much for joining the session. It was super fun and super intense. I really loved it. Make sure to get in touch with me if you have any follow-up questions. Happy to debate. Enjoy the rest of the conference and talk to you all soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.